if 80-year-old women could doom scroll, that's my vibe. And in case you were wondering how Jewish I am, it's that Jewish. I pay multiple people to handle my calendar because I'm that bad at it. All right, here we go. I'm going to pretend I'm pushing record because that feels right. Okay, I'm pressing record. Boop. Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren Howard. Welcome to Different Not Broken, which is our podcast on exactly that there are a lot of people in this world walking around feeling broken, and the reality is you're just different, and that's fine. Sometimes, contrary to popular belief and probably the persona that I effuse on the regular, I don't watch murder shows. And lately I have been watching, HBO Max has some kind of features on older, mostly deceased stars. And so I watched one on Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward. I watched one on Elizabeth Taylor. One of them was on George Carlin. My dad loves George Carlin, and there is no planet where I should have grown up on George Carlin, and I very much grew up on George Carlin. I knew way more about George Carlin than any 8-year-old ever should have known about George Carlin. One of his greatest moments of sadness, I don't know if it was actually a moment of sadness, but it was maybe a moment of disbelief. You know, mind you, he was an addiction psychiatrist, but like part of George Carlin's whole persona is that he was blown away on cocaine all the time. Like it was like his deal. And I guess he got sober toward the end of his life. I think it was like confirmation for my dad that the 70s were over. It was heartbreaking to him. Like his youth was gone. If George Carlin is sober, that means that we are all old people now. George Carlin was the one who was never, it was never going to happen for. And he did get sober. Good for him, but also heartbreaking to my dad for whatever reason. Anyway, so the documentary itself is fascinating, and watching his career progression and watching him go from the suit and tie to the counterculture guy. His plays on words, the ways he would twist language, the ways that he would question language, all of it fascinating, especially if you're somebody like me who kind of does some of that naturally in my brain. And somebody, when you write a lot, which I do, I hear sentences with the same kind of cadence or meter that I think a lot of musicians hear their music with. And so, I'll read a sentence back and I can tell whether it's right or not based on how it feels, not necessarily what's actually on the page. And certain things just it either works or it doesn't. I don't hear them as music, but I hear them as kind of melodic in my head as far as whether it works or whether it doesn't. If the things sound like they're in the right order, if there's a better word, if I'm missing the point, if it's hitting the right chord, if it's hitting the right emotion. And so, words are really important to me. But there was a part, and I very much remember this show. George Carlin had a sitcom in the early-ish 90s. He called it a stand-up sitcom. I don't remember much, but I still remember the commercial for his sitcom where he explains that it's a stand-up sitcom. And to this day, that's imprinted on my brain. But I think he only did the show for 1 or 2 seasons. It probably was 1 season before it got canceled, even though it did fairly well. And it was because he hated it. I mean, I think there was also just general issues with the network, and he could be pretty difficult to work with. But he didn't like doing it. And so they were discussing why he walked away from it, even though technically he got fired. But they were discussing why it didn't work. And somebody described it as he needed to be on the road. He needed to be talking to large groups of people because those interactions give you the little extra hug that you can only get from strangers. And it was I literally hit pause and I just went, oh shit. I think that's what I've always been unable to describe. Why am I willing to get on this microphone and say whatever pops into my brain in front of last year 100,000 downloads worth of people? But if I run into you on the street and you're like, hey, I listened to your podcast yesterday, or I know you personally and you tell me that you engage with my content, I'm like, eesh, what? Why? Why would you do that? That does not seem correct. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's not for you. That is for 100,000 of my closest friends. I've talked to other people who feel that way and who kind of feel that embarrassment when somebody they actually know in real life engages with something that they do for the internet people. I have talked to other people who are like that, but I didn't know that anybody had ever described it in a way that finally made it make sense. And that's exactly what it is. It's that little extra hug that you can only get from strangers. Do I need validation from strangers? No. Am I fine without it? Yeah. But is it nice to kind of know that somebody who only knows you from the mouth runnings that you do on the internet is actually getting something from it and get the feedback from them that you would literally rebuff if it came from somebody you knew? Yeah, it is kind of nice. So thank you for my little extra hug that you guys give me by listening, if you're out there. Hello? Yes? Okay. Because that's what it's about. And should it be about that? I don't know. But if that's what George Carlin is after, then I think I'm okay with it. Because he's one of the few people in the world who had a microphone who was more foul-mouthed than I am. I've always kind of liked makeup. I like playing with makeup. I like wearing makeup, usually. It very much goes against my soft pants, shoeless vibe. It is counterintuitive to like 90% of this persona that I espouse, I guess. But one of my cozy habits, when I want to turn my brain off and just like do nothing else, is I like to lay in my bed and scroll my phone and open the Macy's app and look at whatever makeup is on sale. And I don't know why it's always the Macy's app. It just is, I don't know. But if 80-year-old women could doom scroll, that's my vibe. Like Edna, your mom's neighbor who crochets pot holders and goes to Macy's to get her moisturizer. That's the vibe I'm going for. That's been my wind down on Friday nights for forever, is you can usually find me scrolling my phone being like, ooh, moisturizer's on sale. I don't usually buy much. I very rarely buy much, but I like to look. In the last couple of months, I don't exactly know why, except for the fact that I think my brain just needs little pockets of joy. Just like desperately needs little pockets of joy. It has gone from like a passing interest to like a full hyperfixation. I can tell you all the things about all the stuff, and there's lists. Of course, we've made lists. It's me. There's so many lists. And I can tell you who has sales when. I can tell you, especially during Christmas, I was like, oh no, don't buy that now. You need to buy that next week, because it was like a whole thing. It still is a whole thing. I have an entire drawers. Like I had to get a second set of drawers in my office to hold all of my makeup, because if I see new stuff and I'm like, must try. And then it usually gets delivered. I don't ever leave the house to go get it, which is hilarious because like putting on makeup to be in my house is not super useful, but I do it anyway. I get like the 10 minutes of dopamine that I need to go back and do whatever I have to do for the rest of the day. So it's become like a thing. My entire Christmas list for my husband was makeup. And one day he walked into my office and he's like, can you pick something that isn't stupid makeup? And I was like, but that's what I want. And he was like, yeah, but it's like 2 entire shopping carts full of makeup. And I was like, do you want it to be 3? And he was like, well, okay, no. He was like, is there anything that you want that isn't makeup? And I'm like, no, not really. That's what I want. My husband organizes all the presents before they need to be wrapped. He handed me this thing and he was like, can you wrap this for my mom? It's some makeup that she wanted. And I swear to God, it was like a light went off. And I was like, your mom wants makeup? Tell me more about your mom wanting makeup. What kind of makeup did she want? And he hands it to me and I was like, where did you buy this? And he goes, I don't know. I just bought it from the link that she sent me. And I'm like, no, but what store? No, that's not where you get this. We need to return this and go get this somewhere else. And he's like, why? And I was like, well, because it's on sale. He's like, okay, that's fine. And he hands me another thing of this like serum stuff from Lancome that she wanted. It was super expensive. He was like, all right, I bought this, but it's not here yet. And I was like, wait, you already bought this? And he goes, yeah. And I was like, where'd you buy it from? And he told me, and I was like, you need to return that and buy this one instead. And I like pull up my phone and he's like, that's not what she asked for. And I was like, no, but it's a set. So you bought just the thing and it was $101. This was not anything that he showed me. Like, you just bought this. That's 1.7 ounces and it was $101. If you buy this, it's the exact same size, but it comes in a kit and it's only $89. And then you can use this coupon and it'll take another $15 off of it if you buy it from here. I was like, I think we can still get it in time. And this is not anything we had talked about before. He did not know that I knew anything about this item at all. And he looks at me and he's like, I have a question for you. I said, what? And he goes, what did you have for lunch? I was like, I don't know. I have no idea. He's like, okay, just making sure. What did I pay for this item that you have never seen? And I was like, that was $54. He's like, that's not normal. That's not normal at all. And I was like, can you just leave me alone? Fine. So then he did very nicely get me a bunch of the things that I wanted that I would never buy for myself because they're too expensive and I would never spend the money on them myself. And his mom also was very lovely and bought me several of them. And it was very, very nice. And shortly thereafter, it was my birthday. And on my birthday, I was scrolling Sephora, which I do multiple times a day. Shut up. Leave me alone. I realized they had a bunch of the stuff that I got on sale. And there was another discount on it. And so I put a bunch of them in my cart and set it for pickup. And we were headed out that night anyway to go pick some stuff up. And so I figured we would just run past there. And then I took the ones that I hadn't opened and I put them back in the bag that we still had and got the receipt. And I was like, well, just take these back and I'll go pick up the ones that I ordered. I said to my husband that we need to stop by Sephora because I need to return these. And he's like, but I bought them for you and you want them. And I said, yeah, but they went on sale. And so I want to return these and I got more and I'll just swap them out. And he's like, okay. So we go into Sephora and I'm standing in the line and I hand everything to the lady. And she says, was there anything wrong with these? And I said, no, they just went on sale today and I bought other ones already. And my husband standing behind me goes, yeah, I got schooled on paying too much. Apparently I ran afoul of the makeup encyclopedia. I am sorry. So anyway, if you need to know anything about makeup, including what products to use or how much they cost or how to get it for less expensive or whether to buy it directly from the manufacturer or from a reseller. Apparently, I didn't even realize that I have become a walking receptacle for this information. And I can tell you exactly how much this stuff costs down to basically the penny, but ask me what my kids' names are. And I'm like, ugh. There's that bigger one. And then there's that slightly smaller one. Their names are kind of, I don't know. I'll get back to you on that. That is what it's like in hyperfixation town. And encyclopedic knowledge town. They live like right next to each other. They like on the map, they're right next to each other. And I didn't realize how deeply I had been immersed in this. But also, when a new box of things that I definitely didn't need shows up on my porch. And I guarantee you, if I bought it for myself, it was on like Super Mondo mega sale. 100% on mega sale. I do not buy anything for myself that is anywhere, not that I need to justify this to any of you, because I know all of you love me and would allow me to purchase whatever I want for however many dollars I want. But if I bought it for myself, it was cheap, which makes it better, which makes it even better, because getting something you love on sale is like the biggest win of your whole life. And in case you were wondering how Jewish I am, it's that Jewish. But I got this big box of stuff that I had purchased. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. If you like makeup, get yourself an Ipsy subscription. The monthly box is okay. You get fun stuff. But the sales where you get like really, really expensive stuff and it's like 80% off and stuff that you would never be able to get on that sale, it's the way to go. That's my recommendation. Get an Ipsy subscription. Anyway, I got this big box in the middle of like a really shitty day. And I opened it, and it had all these L2 toys. That's just basically what they are. It's all toys. That's what I'm buying it for. In the same way that my husband buys vintage video games and fills up my entire front room with them, I do the same thing with makeup. And I was like giddy, like, ooh, I never thought I would get this, and I have it now. And then I got to play with all of them, and I get to play with them every day. And odds are, if you come into my office at any point in the several hours before I have a phone call where I need to be on camera, I will be here with like half of my makeup on because I've been fidgeting and fumbling while I'm doing other stuff. And it takes me like 2 or 3 hours to put on a full face of makeup because I'm not focused on it the whole time. But it is so fun. So anyway, If I can help you with your beauty purchases, I would be happy to do that. But you might want to get on it now before the hyperfixation runs out and I end up with a whole cabinet full of makeup that I'm like, what am I supposed to do with it? That's probably not true. I've loved makeup for a long time, but it's on hyperspeed. And I believe that is because if my brain did not find some way to experience joy on the regular, it was just going to explode. And so that is how we have mined the dopamine, and it comes in the form of cream, blush, 17 different kinds of setting spray, all of which sit in this IKEA Alex dresser that is right next to me. And now we'll go to Allison, who has this week's small talk.
Alicia from St. Louis, Missouri has a question. I'm great in a crisis and useless with boring everyday stuff like bills, emails, and forms. It makes me feel like a fraud adult. How do you make peace with being capable in some areas and completely useless in others?
Well, first you go to a doctor and get your requisite diagnosis of ADHD. And I say that as somebody who's not a clinician and has no right to diagnose you of that, but I know a fair number of ADHD people, and that is like classic. I'm going to out my brother here. My brother is excellent in a crisis. Incredible in a crisis. Something bad happens, something difficult happens, he will have a 7-part action plan. He will manage all the people. He will make sure all the things get done. He will see it to, I don't even say to the end. He'll see it to the least interesting part or the less interesting part. And then it's probably someone else's problem. Like, that is a very well-defined personality type. There are things you're going to be bad at. I run 4 businesses and have a successful podcast. I am busy every minute of every day. I am maybe the most hyper-capable person I know in most things. And I don't say that to brag. I'm saying it to make a point. I can build a new business with an entire strategic design in 30 seconds in my head. I'm so good at it. I cannot run a damn calendar to save my life. If you want something to end up on the calendar and you ask me to do it, it's either not going to happen or I'm going to do it wrong. It doesn't matter what calendar programs you give me. It doesn't matter what kind of booking links you create. I'm bad at it. Part of it is that I just hate making calendar invites. I don't know why. It is like the most benign part of my day, but making calendar invites just like causes rage deep within my soul. I don't know why. But also like figuring out all of the people, finding all the email addresses, making sure you got it in the right time zone, making sure you've coordinated the right time. No, I hate it. I can't do it. I do it wrong. I forget to put the invite link on there. I'm bad at it. I literally pay, depending on the situation, I pay multiple people to handle my calendar because I'm that bad at it. I'm so bad at it. It's like, it's not even a running joke. It's just like a mutually understood thing among the people I work with. Don't ask L2 to make a calendar invite. She will either forget or screw it up, and the screw up will be worse than the forgetting, I promise. At some point, I just stopped fighting that. Could I probably get better at calendar management? Sure. But is that where my time and energies are needed? No. I can tell you with certainty that being reliable in a crisis is one of the most valuable skills you can ever have, by a margin of a ton. Keeping calm in a crisis, knowing how to handle things in a crisis, knowing how to find resources, knowing how to stay organized, that is an exceptional skill. And maybe that's what you should be trading on. Maybe you're doing the wrong things. Like, crisis management is a career. Maybe you're doing the wrong things. Maybe there's nothing wrong with you. You're just doing the wrong things. And if you want to get better at the day-to-day kind of work-a-day stuff that is less interesting, there are tools available. There's lots of actually really good apps for it that I've tested out recently. There's tons of different ways that you can get better at it. But also, like, I don't think you should beat yourself up for doing something naturally that like 99% of people are terrible at. Most people become completely useless in a crisis. If you're not that, then maybe we're just leaning on the wrong thing. Thanks for being here, guys. Have a good day. Love you, mean it. I'm literally just sticking my hand in this drawer into one of the many dividers that are in here. That's one of probably 3 handfuls of eyeliner and mascara.